Have you ever noticed the quiet, heavy, sinking feeling that can arrive on the one day you are supposed to be celebrating? Birthdays are meant to be a marker of joy, yet for so many, they bring a sudden, overwhelming wave of panic. What if the anxiety you feel is not about growing older, but about a deep, hidden fear that you are running out of time? Most people do not realize that the pain they feel as another year passes is not caused by the reality of their life today. It is caused by the heavy weight of the life they expected to have by now. If you have ever felt this quiet panic, if you have ever looked at a calendar and felt a tightening in your chest, anxious that you are falling behind, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final realization may change the way you see your own timeline forever. 1. The weight of passing time. Here is a truth few people want to face. The tighter you hold onto a timeline, the more you suffer when life refuses to follow it. Every time a birthday approaches, we are conditioned to look back and measure. We count our achievements. We count our relationships. We measure our wealth, our stability, and our happiness against an invisible ticking clock. And when reality does not match the perfect picture we painted in our minds years ago, a deep, unsettling panic begins to set in. We feel like we have failed. We feel like time is an enemy, rushing past us, leaving us behind with empty hands. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that suffering arises not from the turning of the earth or the changing of the seasons, but from our attachment to how things were supposed to be. In Buddhist thought, time is not a straight line rushing toward a harsh finish line. It is a continuous, natural unfolding. Impermanence is the very nature of all things. Everything changes, everything passes. Yet, we suffer because we try to freeze time. We try to capture a specific version of the future and lock it inside a cage of our own expectations. Imagine a river flowing toward the ocean. The water does not panic because it has not yet reached the sea. It does not look back at the rocks it passed and mourn the way it used to flow. It simply moves, shaping itself naturally to the bends and curves of the earth. But when we place a rigid dam of expectations across the river of our lives, the water begins to churn. The pressure builds, the panic rises, not because the river is flowing wrong, but because we are trying to force it to pool exactly where we think it belongs. When you quietly watch the clock strike midnight on your birthday, that churn is the panic you feel, the pressure of societal milestones, the fear of being left behind, the heavy, exhausting burden of thinking you should be somewhere else by now. Ask yourself, are you mourning the passing of time, or are you mourning a timeline that was never truly yours to begin with? What are you afraid will happen if you simply let the river flow? Pause, breathe, observe the panic without making it your identity. Let the fear of falling behind rise, and then let it pass like a cloud drifting across a wide, open sky. Stop trying to force the door open on a future that has not yet arrived. You do not have to fight the passing of another year. You can stand still in this exact moment and breathe. But releasing your grip on the calendar is only the first step. Because beneath the fear of passing time lies an even deeper sorrow, a quiet mourning for the person we thought we would become. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. The ghost of the unlived life. What if the hardest person to forgive is the version of yourself that never came to exist? Here is a painful truth about the quiet panic of growing older. When we stand at the edge of a new year of life, we do not just reflect on what we have done, we are haunted by the ghost of the unlived life. This is the phantom of who we thought we would be by now. The one who made no mistakes, the one who chose the right path, achieved total stability, and never felt lost. We compare our real, messy, complicated reality to this perfect, untouched ghost. We do this when we look back and regret the years we spent in the wrong relationship. We do this when we feel we chose the wrong career, or when we worry that we missed a fleeting window of opportunity. We look at friends or even strangers on a screen and assume they are living the exact life we were supposed to have. And so the ghost grows heavier. We feel a deep sense of failure, not because our present moment is unbearable, but because it does not match the fantasy we created years ago. Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our agony comes from clinging to illusions. We suffer because we demand that reality matches the pictures drawn in our minds. In Buddhist thought, there is no parallel universe where you made all the perfect choices. There is only right now. The unlived life is a shadow, created entirely by the mind. It has never faced a real storm. It has never had to navigate a broken heart, a sudden loss, or an unexpected failure. Of course, the ghost looks perfect. It is not real. Imagine standing in a quiet room, looking into a mirror, but refusing to look at your own face. Instead, you stare fiercely at the glass, demanding to see a completely different person. You criticize your actual reflection for not looking like the phantom. You spend all your precious energy mourning the stranger in the glass. This is what we do when we obsess over what could have been. We reject the very real, breathing, surviving person standing in the room. Think about that. You are exhausting yourself trying to live up to a memory of a future that never happened. Ask yourself, who is the ghost you are secretly measuring yourself against? What imaginary timeline are you allowing to steal the peace of your actual existence? Is holding on to this phantom bringing you closer to happiness, or is it merely feeding your anxiety? Pause, breathe. Notice the heaviness of this ghost. Then, gently, choose to stop carrying it. You do not owe your present joy to a fantasy. You do not have to apologize for the detours that kept you alive. Let the unlived life remain unlived. It was never yours to hold. Forgive yourself for not becoming the illusion. Because you cannot step forward if your mind is planted firmly in an imaginary past. But releasing the ghost is only part of the journey. We must also look at how we judge the path we are currently walking. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The illusion of being behind. What if the feeling of falling behind is a complete illusion, created by a race you never agreed to run? Here is the truth. We live in a world obsessed with measuring success by the speed of its arrival. We absorb a quiet, unspoken rulebook early in life. By a certain age, you should have your path figured out. By another, you should have found lasting love, unshakable stability, and deep confidence. When another birthday arrives and we have not checked these invisible boxes, panic sets in. We look at peers, colleagues, and the carefully curated lives of strangers on social media. We see their victories, their certainties, their seemingly perfect momentum, and in the quiet of our own minds, a heavy, sinking thought settles. I am too late. I have wasted my time. We punish ourselves. We feel a deep, exhausting shame for still searching, still healing, or starting over while everyone else seems to be sprinting ahead. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this sense of being behind is a heavy chain forged entirely by comparison. In Buddhist thought, there is no universal timeline. There is no single rigid track that all human beings are supposed to walk. Suffering arises when the mind insists on measuring your unique journey against a completely different one. Buddhism reminds us that the very concept of late requires a fixed, final destination. But life is not a finish line to cross. It is a continuous unfolding in the present moment. Imagine a seed growing in darkness, deep beneath the cold soil. It spends months, sometimes years, doing nothing but breaking open and pushing roots deep into the earth. Above ground, the sun is shining. Other flowers have already blossomed in vibrant colors. If that buried seed could look around, it might panic. It might feel desperately behind. It might believe it has failed, but it is not behind. It is simply doing the quiet, unseen, absolutely necessary work of becoming strong enough to break the surface. Think about your own life. The years you spent feeling lost, the times you had to start over from zero, the quiet, painful seasons of healing from a relationship or a failure. Those were not wasted years. They were your roots growing deeper in the dark. They were your roots growing deeper in the dark. The intense pressure to succeed quickly, the anxiety of being left out, the fear that your life has stalled. These are simply stories you have been conditioned to believe. When you look at someone else's success, you are only seeing their bloom. You are not seeing their long years in the dark. Ask yourself, whose timeline are you using to judge your own worth? If you stopped comparing your journey to the noise of the world around you, would you still feel so panicked about where you are today? Pause, breathe. Observe the thought of being behind without following it. You are not powerless. You do not have to chase a destination that does not belong to you. Let the feeling of inadequacy rise without making it your identity. Do your part, then release the outcome, because peace is not found by running faster to catch up with the rest of the world. Peace is found by stepping out of the race altogether. But stepping out of the race requires us to stop fighting the reality of where our feet are planted today. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. The practice of radical acceptance. What if the exhaustion you feel is not from the heavy burdens of your life, but from how hard you are fighting reality? Here is a truth that is deeply uncomfortable to admit. We spend so much of our time completely at war with what is actually happening. We look at our current circumstances, a quiet, empty house, an unfulfilling job, a bank account that has not grown, a relationship that suddenly ended, and we scream silently into the void. It should not be this way. We believe that if we just reject our reality fiercely enough, we can force it to change. We refuse to accept the age we are turning. We refuse to accept the people who chose to walk away. And this constant, silent battle against the present moment drains every ounce of our joy. Buddhist wisdom teaches that pain is an unavoidable part of the human experience, but suffering is a choice. Suffering is simply pain multiplied by our resistance to it. In Buddhist thought, the deepest peace comes not from magically changing your external circumstances, but from the practice of radical acceptance. Acceptance does not mean giving up. It does not mean you approve of your pain, or that you are happy about where you have ended up. It simply means you stop arguing with the fact that you are there. It is the quiet, powerful acknowledgement of what is. Imagine being caught in a sudden, violent rainstorm. The rain is freezing, the wind is fierce. In this moment, you have two choices. You can stand in the pouring rain, clenching your fists, looking up at the sky, and screaming, "It is not supposed to be raining, the forecast promised sunshine." If you do this, you will still be completely soaked, but you will also be angry, exhausted, and miserable. Or you can simply bow your head and say, "It is raining," and then you can use your remaining energy to seek shelter. Think about your own life. This is exactly what we do when we are overwhelmed. When we are struggling with loneliness, we fight the feeling deeply ashamed of it, instead of simply saying, "I am feeling alone right now." When we feel stuck after a major failure, we rage against the unfairness of the universe, instead of saying, "This is exactly where my path has brought me today." The longer you deny your reality, the longer you remain standing completely unsheltered in the storm of your own suffering. Ask yourself, what truth about your life are you currently exhausting, of yourself trying to deny? What would happen if you stopped fighting the rain and simply accepted that you are wet? Is your resistance bringing you peace, or is it only feeding your exhaustion? Pause. Breathe. Let the reality of this moment exist without trying to fight it. Do not judge it. Do not try to negotiate with the past. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm, because the moment you drop your resistance, you reclaim all the energy you were using to fight. You cannot change a reality you refuse to acknowledge. Let life meet you exactly where you are, but accepting where you are is deeply difficult when your mind is full of expectations about what you were supposed to achieve. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. Releasing the burden of potential. What if the heaviest thing you are carrying is not your past, but the crushing weight of your own potential? Here is a truth that is rarely spoken aloud. From the time we are young, we are told that we are full of promise. We are told we can be anything, do anything, and achieve greatness. In the beginning, this feels like a gift, but as the years pass, this endless sense of potential slowly hardens into a heavy, suffocating burden. When another birthday arrives, we do not celebrate the fact that we have survived, learned, and grown. Instead, we measure our current, ordinary life against the boundless potential we were promised. We feel a deep, quiet panic because we have not lived up to what everyone thought we could be. We feel guilty for resting. We feel ashamed for choosing a simpler path. We look at our unused talents, the careers we did not pursue, the dreams we left behind, and we feel like we have failed the universe. Buddhist wisdom teaches that one of the deepest forms of suffering is attachment to an idealized self. We suffer because we cling to the endless possibilities of who we could be, rather than embracing the reality of who we are. In Buddhist thought, holding on to every possible future is a form of clinging. It pulls us out of the present moment and traps us in a cycle of endless striving. The truth is, you were never meant to walk every path. You were never meant to fulfill every expectation. Non-attachment means letting go of the heavy, abstract idea of what you should be in order to make space for the quiet truth of what is. Imagine a small boat moving through rough water. The boat is filled to the brim with beautiful, gleaming, heavy stones. Each stone represents a piece of your unfulfilled potential, the successful career you were supposed to have, the perfect relationship you were supposed to build, the incredible talents you were supposed to master. The stones are magnificent to look at, but they are incredibly heavy. The water is getting rougher. The boat is sinking under the weight of all these beautiful possibilities. To stay afloat, to actually navigate the river of your life, you cannot keep carrying them all. You have to start dropping the stones overboard, one by one. You must let them sink to the bottom of the river, not because they are worthless, but because they are pulling you under. Think about your own life. We do this when we constantly pressure ourselves to succeed faster. We do this when we feel guilty for not being the most accomplished person in the room. We carry the heavy stones of career, expectations, societal milestones, and personal perfectionism. We are so afraid of wasting our potential that we end up wasting our actual life, sinking under the anxiety of trying to be everything at once. Ask yourself, how much of your current panic comes from trying to carry the weight of everything you could possibly be? What beautiful, heavy stones do you need to throw out of the boat today just to breathe again? Is holding on to this idea of your potential bringing you joy, or is it drowning you? Pause, breathe, release the need to be everything to everyone, including yourself. Let the feeling of not doing enough rise, and then let it wash away. You are allowed to be ordinary. You are allowed to simply exist without proving your worth to the passing years. Because peace is not found by fulfilling every endless possibility. It is found by choosing one path and letting the others go. But to truly drop these heavy stones, you must first learn how to stop your mind from drifting back into the storm. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Grounding yourself in the present anchor. Have you ever noticed that your anxiety rarely lives in the current moment? Here is the truth. When a birthday arrives and panic sets in, our mind violently splits in two directions. Half of our mind is dragged backward into the past. We recount our mistakes, we replay painful endings to relationships, and we quietly mourn the years we feel we threw away. The other half is hurled forward into a terrifying, abstract future. We worry about growing old, we fear we will never find deep companionship, and we obsess over how little time is left to fix our broken plans. We are everywhere at once, except right here. We completely abandon the present moment, because we have mistakenly decided that the present moment is just a waiting room for the life we actually want. Buddhist wisdom teaches that almost all of our deep psychological suffering is rooted in this mental time travel. We suffer because our bodies are sitting quietly on a couch or lying safely in bed, but our minds are fighting battles that ended years ago or bracing for tragedies that have not even happened. In Buddhist thought, mindfulness is not a mystical, elevated state of floating above your problems. It is simply the act of bringing your wandering mind back to the exact place where your body is. Imagine a massive, ancient tree standing in the middle of an open field as a fierce storm violently rolls in. The wind howls, the sky turns dark and heavy. The highest branches of the tree whip wildly in the air, thrashing back and forth under the invisible, overwhelming pressure. If you only look at the branches, the tree appears to be in complete chaos. But if you look down, the thick trunk does not move. The roots reach deep into the dark, quiet earth, gripping the soil tightly. The tree does not try to stop the wind. It does not try to change the weather. It survives the storm by staying completely anchored, exactly where it is. Think about your own life. We experience this thrashing when we lie awake at 3 a.m. on the night before a milestone birthday. Our heart racing with panic about our career, our finances, or our loneliness. We let our minds thrash wildly in the wind of our own fearful thoughts. We try to mentally solve the entire complex puzzle of our next 5 years in the middle of the night. But you cannot solve the future. You can only anchor yourself in the now. Ask yourself, are you actually in danger right now, in this exact physical second, or are you suffering entirely from a memory or a prediction? What if you stopped letting your mind be thrown around by the wind and simply allowed yourself to be here? Breathe. Feel the solid ground beneath your feet. Hear the quiet, ordinary sounds in the room around you. Observe the frantic thoughts without following them into the storm. Bring your mind back to this one simple breath. You do not have to have the rest of your life figured out today. You only need to navigate this single moment, because true peace is not found by predicting the future or rewriting the past. It is found by dropping a heavy anchor into the stillness of right now. But once you are quietly anchored in the present, you are finally forced to look around at the life that actually exists. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. Finding peace in what remains. What if true freedom is not found by building a perfect life, but by making peace with the broken pieces? Here is a painful truth about growing older. When another birthday arrives, our eyes are naturally drawn to the empty spaces. We tally up our losses. We think about the friends who drifted away. We remember the deep, passionate dreams we had to gently set aside. We look back at a relationship that shattered, or a career path that closed, or the simple, boundless energy of our youth that has faded. We look at our lives like a ruined house, obsessed with the missing bricks, feeling an overwhelming sense of grief for the things that did not survive the journey. We convince ourselves that because our life is not entirely whole, it is no longer beautiful. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that suffering is born from the delusion of permanence. We suffer because we believe we were supposed to keep everything we ever loved forever. But in Buddhist thought, the nature of existence is constant change. People leave, chapters end, situations evolve. The art of living is not holding on to everything but letting things go gracefully. To mourn what is gone while completely ignoring what is still in your hands is to blind yourself to the sacredness of the present. Imagine a lush, ancient forest immediately after a fierce, devastating fire. The flames have swept through, burning away the thick canopy and the familiar paths. If a person stands in the center of the ashes, refusing to look at anything but the blackened trunks, they will only feel despair. They will weep endlessly for the forest that used to be. But if they kneel down and look closely at the soil, they will see something miraculous. The fire has cleared the heavy underbrush. Sunlight is now hitting the dark forest floor for the first time in years. Tiny, fragile green shoots are already breaking through the ash. The forest is not destroyed. It is simply beginning again. Think about your own life. We do this when we hit a milestone age and obsess over our faded youth or a broken promise. We stare so intensely at the empty spaces in our lives, the quiet weekends, the shifted friendships, the missed opportunities. We grieve the fire so deeply that we completely miss the light breaking through the trees. We forget that we have survived the hardest days of our lives. We forget that we still have the capacity to love, to walk in the quiet morning air, to rebuild, and to start over. Ask yourself, are you spending all of your precious energy mourning what the storm took away? What if the things you lost were simply making space for the life you are actually meant to live? What are you failing to nurture that is still quietly blooming right in front of you? Pause, breathe, stop staring at the ashes. Look around your life right now and find one simple thing that remains. A quiet morning, a cup of tea, a loyal friend, the steady rhythm of your own beating heart. Honor it. Let gratitude soften your grief. You do not have to pretend that the losses do not hurt, but you must not let the loss become your entire world. You still have so much left to give, because true peace is not about having everything you once wanted. It is about deeply loving whatever survived the fire. But to truly embrace what remains, you must learn to trust the direction your life is taking right now without knowing the destination. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. The beauty of the unfolding path. What if the exact reason you feel lost is because you are finally walking the path you were actually meant to walk? Here is a quiet truth about our deepest fears. We are absolutely terrified of the unknown. As we grow older and the birthdays begin to stack up, our craving for certainty becomes overwhelming. We want a guarantee that our struggles are leading somewhere meaningful. We want to know that we will not end up alone, that our foundation will be secure, and that we have not made a terrible mistake along the way. When we look ahead and see only ambiguity, we freeze. We convince ourselves that if the destination is not completely clear, we must be completely lost. We treat life as if we are supposed to be holding a highly detailed map, and we feel a deep, silent shame for walking blindly. Buddhist wisdom teaches that our demand for certainty is just another painful form of attachment. We suffer because we desperately want to control the future before it even arrives. But in Buddhist thought, the path is not a fixed road waiting to be discovered. The path is made simply by walking it. There is no map. The belief that you must know exactly where you are going in order to be safe is a heavy illusion. Life is not a rigid script to follow. It is a continuous, mysterious unfolding. Imagine walking up a massive, quiet mountain at dawn. The air is cold, and the mountain is completely covered in a thick, heavy fog. You are holding a small lantern in your hands. The light from your lantern does not pierce the fog. It only illuminates the next 3 steps in front of you. If you stand at the bottom, terrified, demanding that the fog clears, so you can see the very top of the peak before you begin, you will stand in the cold forever. You will never move. But if you simply look down, trust the small circle of light, and take the 3 steps available to you, the light moves with you. The path slowly unfolds, step by gentle step, out of the mist. Think about your own life. We demand to see the peak when we refuse to let go of an empty situation because we want a guarantee of what comes next. We demand to see the peak when we panic on our birthday, overwhelmed by trying to plan the next decade of our lives in a single evening. We drain all our energy trying to pierce the fog of the future, instead of simply walking the ground right in front of us. We forget that we have navigated every single fog we have ever faced, not by having all the answers, but by quietly taking the next step. Ask yourself, are you exhausting your spirit trying to see the top of the mountain? What would happen if you let go of the desperate need for absolute certainty and only focused on the light illuminating your next few steps? Pause, breathe. Stop trying to write the ending to a story that is still happening. Release the need to know how it all turns out. Let the fog be there and just take the step immediately in front of you. Because peace is not found by knowing exactly how the journey ends. It is found by trusting yourself to walk the path as it reveals itself. But trusting the path requires a profound shift in how you view the time you are given today. And this is where the final truth begins. What if the passage of time is not a thief stealing your youth, but a quiet fire burning away everything you were never meant to carry? Let us return to that heavy, silent moment. You are sitting in the stillness of your room as another birthday arrives. The calendar turns, the clock strikes, but this time, instead of feeling the sudden, overwhelming wave of panic, you feel something else. You feel a deep, grounding stillness. You no longer see the passing of a year as a frantic countdown to a finish line you have missed. You see it for what it truly is, a gentle shedding of the skin. Throughout this journey, we have looked at the ghosts we use to haunt ourselves. We have seen how the illusion of being behind, the crushing weight of unmet potential, and the desperate demand for certainty only pull us under the water. We have seen how deeply we suffer when we go to war with the reality of our own lives. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that every single moment is both a birth and a death. You do not just grow older once a year. The person you were a decade ago is gone. The person you were yesterday is gone. And that is not a tragedy. That is the beautiful, natural liberation of impermanence. You are not bound by the mistakes of your past, and you are not chained to the fantasy of the unlived life. Right here, right now, you are entirely new. Imagine a single quiet candle burning in a dark room. When you stare at the wax slowly melting away, you might feel a sense of loss. You might panic as the candle grows shorter, mourning the wax that is disappearing. But the purpose of the candle was never to hold on to its wax forever. The purpose of the candle is to give light. As the wax melts, the flame dances. It illuminates the dark. It warms the space around it. To obsess over the melting wax is to completely miss the beauty of the light. Think about your own life. Do not measure your years by what has melted away. Do not count the relationships that did not last, the timelines you did not meet, or the dreams you gently outgrew. The passage of time is not a resource meant to be hoarded in a locked box. It is meant to be consumed in the glorious, messy act of living. You are still breathing. You have survived every single day of your life so far. You are still here, casting light into the room. Ask yourself, as you stand at the threshold of this new year of your existence, are you ready to stop mourning the wax and start honoring the flame? Pause, breathe. Look at the hands resting in your lap. These are the hands that have carried you through every storm, every heartbreak, and every silent, sleepless night of anxiety. They are still here. Forgive yourself for not having it all figured out by now. Forgive yourself for the detours and the delays. Make peace with the life you did not live, so that you can finally, completely inhabit the life that remains. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. If